Hello, it's Foreign News O'Clock on All News Nigeria. I am Opeyemi Olubemi. Here are the headlines for today. Global stock rout deepens as Silicon Valley Bank crash BREW fear. China to reopen border to tourists since COVID. Now the news in detail. Shockwaves from the collapse of Silicon Valley Bank further pounded global bank stocks on Tuesday as assurances from President Joe Biden and other policymakers did little to calm markets and prompted a rethink on the interest rate outlook.
Today, thanks to the quick action of my administration over the past few days, Americans can have confidence that the banking system is safe. Your deposits will be there when you need them. Small businesses across the country, the deposit accounts at these banks can breathe easier knowing they'll be able to pay their workers and pay their bills. And their hardworking employees can breathe easier as well. No losses will be, and this is an important point, no losses will be borne by the taxpayers. Let me repeat that. No losses will be borne by the taxpayers. Instead, the money will come from the fees that banks pay into the Deposit Insurance Fund. Because of the actions that our regulators have already taken, every American should feel confident that their deposits will be there if and when they need them. The management of these banks will be fired. If the bank is taken over by FDIC, the people running the bank should not work there anymore. Investors in the banks will not be protected. They knowingly took a risk, and when the risk didn't pay off, investors lose their money. That's how capitalism works. There are important questions of how these banks got into the circumstance in the first place. We must get the full accounting of what happened and why those responsible can be held accountable. In my administration, no one is above the law.
Joe Biden's efforts to reassure markets and depositors came after emergency U.S. measures to shore up banks by giving them access to additional funding failed to dispel investor worries about potential contagion to other lenders worldwide. Banking stocks in Asia extended declines, with Japan's banking sub-index leading the fall down to 6.7% in early trade to its lowest since December. Traders currently see a 50% chance of no rate hike at that meeting, with rate cuts priced in for the second half of the year. Early last week, a 25 basis point hike was fully priced in, with a 70% chance seen of 50 basis points. With investors fearing additional failures, major U.S. banks lost around $90 billion in stock market value on Monday, bringing their loss over the past 3 trading sessions to nearly $190 billion. Regional U.S. banks were hit the hardest. Shares of First Republic Bank tumbled more than 60% as news of fresh financing failed to reassure investors, and ratings agency Moody's reviewed it for a downgrade. In other news, China has said it would reopen its borders to foreign tourists for the first time in the 3 years since the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic by restoring the issuance of all types of visas from Wednesday. The removal of this last cross-border control measure imposed to guard against COVID-19 comes after authorities last month declared victory over a recent surge in the virus. The boost to the tourism sector should help rekindle a $17 trillion economy that last year suffered one of its slowest rates of growth in nearly half a century. Areas in China that required no visas before the pandemic will revert to visa-free entry, the Foreign Ministry said on Tuesday. This will include the southern tourist island of Hainan and cruise ships passing through Shanghai port. Visa-free entry to the southern manufacturing hub of Jiangdong for foreigners from Hong Kong and Macau will also be resumed. The ministry also said foreigners holding visas issued before March 28, 2020 that are still within their validity date will also be able to enter China. And that's it on the news. To keep up with All News Nigeria, kindly follow us on all social media platforms displayed on the screen. We'll be back with more news updates tomorrow. Until then, stay tuned. I am Opeyemi Olubemi. To have a lovely evening.